Weed isn't addictive. That's the biggest lie I've heard about it. Yes, withdrawal is probably not as harsh as with other heavier drugs, but it's real. It exists, and it's damn sneaky, just like weed itself is sneaky and perverse. My first experience with weed was around age 30, and it was practically non-existent. I smoked and just plain didn't feel anything. I said it's no big deal, that it's all just talk. I even made fun of the friend who'd gotten us to smoke, saying I felt nothing and how tough we were in the face of weed. The second time I smoked, a month apart, it hit me so bad that I ended up saying prayers, literally, begging God to save me. On top of being a total beginner at smoking, I was also good and drunk when I decided to take a few hits. Weed plus alcohol, guaranteed disaster. It hit me so bad I didn't think I'd ever recover. I mean, there's no way to come back from something this bad, I thought. That's why I even turned to God, because I didn't believe anything else could save me from that situation. Even after 24 hours, I hadn't fully recovered. That's when I said, okay, I'm not smoking again, because it's not fun to feel this bad. I don't know for sure if I believed the lie I'd told myself or if I was somehow looking for a way not to feel guilty for what I'd done. But in the moment, I was fine. Several more weekends of fun followed, me and 2 more friends. It was so much fun to get together, the 3 of us, and get high. Back then, a week felt like it took forever to arrive. Cheap fun that doesn't cause addiction, we thought. Another ugly episode was when I smoked at the office right after work ended. I woke up on the tram home, feeling my vision start slipping away with every second that passed. At one point, all I could see was white in front of me, nothing else. I was standing, holding onto the tram's bars, my only goal being not to collapse. Because on top of losing my vision, I felt extremely sick. I could feel my body giving out, no strength left in my legs to stand straight. After a few moments, my vision came back, and I managed to get home, where I threw myself onto the bed and stared at the ceiling for 3 hours without moving. Obviously, I told myself the same lie again. That's it. That was the last time. I loved the escape from normal life that weed gave me so much that during the pandemic, I'd go to my friend's place, the ones I smoked with, to smoke weed, even when they had COVID at the time. For me, someone who's always tense and anxious, weed was a corner of paradise. All my problems disappeared when I smoked. Not COVID, not the police, not anyone could stop me from going to get my dose of happiness. Weeks passed, months, years even. And what started as something recreational turned into me being dependent without realizing I was dependent. I was like the frog you put in cold water first. By the time the water boils, the frog is already dead. One day I thought, I don't think this is what I want to do. I'm asking myself, am I going to smoke weed my whole life? From that moment on began the fight to quit weed. A fight I had no idea how hard and how long it would be. I think weed contributed to deepening the depression I'd started to become inseparable from. But I also think the depression helped me back then take a break from smoking, because when I wasn't smoking I felt bad, but after smoking I felt even worse. My darkest thoughts got amplified, and I'd noticed my lower back pain was also a lot more intense. That's why, seeing that I felt worse when I smoked, it was easier for me to take my first break from weed. I think it lasted around 6 months of a break, after which I said I deserved a reward. I said I'll smoke one evening and that's it. That one evening turned into the whole weekend. The weekend turned into a week. The week turned into a month. And just like that, I was back where I'd started. I was back on the dance floor with weed. Since my brain had already learned what weed does to us, it was obvious I needed bigger and bigger doses to get the same effect. From the first break until now, as I'm writing this, I think 4 years have passed of using with multiple attempts to quit. That's why I say it's a perverse drug, because it gives you the impression that it's done, that you've beaten it. but it waits for you to take one more hit, and it comes back with a force you have no idea about. For me, the hardest part was stopping using this last time because my mental state was okay, meaning I wasn't depressed anymore. I was in a good mood. And yet when I smoked, everything felt fun. Life felt even more beautiful. That's why I think it's harder to quit when you're feeling good than when weed is making you feel bad. Today I'm marking 5 months of a break, but the attempt to quit started around 1 year ago. So I had more than half a year of failed attempts where I believed I'd escaped it, but I hadn't. I'd hold out a week, 2 at most, after which I'd go buy weed again. Until one day my therapist told me that actually, I don't like the state my body is in when I'm sober. I can't stand how it feels in my body, and that's why I give in and smoke again. It wasn't something I didn't already know, but hearing her put it into words, it clicked in my head. And from then on I said, I don't care if it kills me, I'm not smoking anymore. I knew I could be very stubborn once I set my mind to something, and I said I'd use my stubbornness to help me escape weed. The hardest part wasn't the first 2 weeks when withdrawal was at its sharpest and most obvious. It was the period after, when the addiction seemed to lose its power, to let its guard down. That's when it was hardest to bear. Nothing hurt, everything was fine, and I didn't know what to do with that state. Whatever I did, my mind would drift back to weed to escape. And even now as I write this, I'd smoke, even though it's been 5 months of a break. Only it doesn't have the same power anymore. Now it's just a thought that I let pass. Without therapy, I don't know if I would have been aware of how much damage this addiction can do to me. Because that's the first step, being aware that something is a problem, and being aware of how serious the problem is. But the hard work, I did it myself. I set out to be stubborn and to sit with the worst states until they lost their power and let me get on with my life. I mean, however much help we get from outside, we're still the ones who have to do the hardest work to get out of addiction.